For those who don't know me, I am Sue Yasav, and I also have launched my company, Marquette Marketing, after an entire career in corporate. So it's all, I launched full time after kind of working on the business as a side hustle for a couple of years. So I'm on the HAYVN advisory board. But what my business does is works with small businesses on their value propositions and turning leaders into thought leaders. So what that means is I take small businesses and I say, okay, it's not awareness, but it's once a company is aware of you, how to get them down the sales funnel to actually buy from you or hire you, right? So that's what I do with value propositions. So it's all about how do you become more attractive to your customer. And then I also do thought leadership, which encompasses white papers, infographics, blogs, and podcasts for businesses. So that's a little bit about me. And okay, so I am going to start to share my screen now. Here we go. All right, let me know if you can see it. Yes? Okay, here we go. All right, so market research. And why am I, a person who does primarily value proposition and marketing, why am I doing market research? A presentation on market research. Ultimately, market research should be the starting point and the point where a new business starts. It's crucial to do a market research in order to see who is your customer, what is most attractive about your business, and how to make your new business the most successful. For an existing business, it's crucial to do market research because you already have a customer base, right? So they're the perfect audience to ask, how am I being successful? What are the pain points? What are the good things about the business that I shouldn't change? What are the things about the business that I may not even know of that I should change? So every business should do some kind of market research study. And I really think it takes, I keep saying this, it takes the guesswork out of your marketing plan. Customers tell you, or potential customers basically tell you what they want and what is most valuable. So diving in, market research takes the guesswork, like I said, out of your marketing. And for a new business, let's dive in a little deeper. So if you have a new business, if you're a true entrepreneur, market research assesses the need for the company, the need for the product. So there are market research surveys that you can ask, does this product concept appeal to you? Yes or no. You could get a gauge of how attractive it is. You could identify your audience. You can ask them in a market research survey to tell you about themselves. And then you could say, hey, isn't it interesting? People who live in Connecticut are very interested in this, but people who live in Colorado or outside states are not interested in this at all. So it can identify who your real audience is. It could also be stuff like, people who are over a certain age seem to be interested, but under a certain age, it doesn't seem to resonate with them. All right, so it identifies who your audience really is for the product or service. So it takes a lot of wasted time and effort out of the process. And then you can test positioning statements. And this lends itself to social media, what you say on your website, what you stand for. You can test statements that are most attractive in terms of a tagline or a positioning statement about your business. And then it can clarify the elements of the value prop that are most important to customers. So for instance, I know that Liz is on. Liz has senior concierge service. So Liz, I hope you don't mind if I use you as an example, but I did a market research
I assumed you would.
survey for Liz. Sorry, my video just flashed off for a minute. And what we tested there was Liz had an idea of performing 10 to 15 things in her business. So we went into market research saying, which ones are the most important to you? And we got the top 3. And those were the top 3 that she went forward with in advertising in her website. And that's the beauty of asking these questions. So let's say you have an existing business, and this is very, very important. There are things that you may assume about your business or about your product that may not actually be true. And how many people love giving negative feedback to a business? Love it. I love telling people what they're doing wrong. No, of course not. We hate telling people what they're doing wrong. That's the good thing about market research. If there's something wrong and it's an anonymous survey, they will tell you much more than telling it to your face. So it's a great way to identify business delighters and pain points. And then it can clarify what's the most important thing to your customer. So let's say you offer 3 things and you're saying, maybe I'll get rid of one of them. It clarifies, don't get rid of that one because that may be the most important thing. It reveals where you get your most clients. You can ask in a market research study, where did you find us? Did you find us on Facebook? Was it social media? Is it search? Was it through a friend? So it tells you your most important marketing channels. And it can unveil any customer service issues, problems that you may not even be aware of. And then it could reveal a good market research survey can reveal new opportunities or maybe product lines that are adjacencies that you may not have thought of before. All right. Any questions before we get started? All right. How to perform market research. So first, I would get insights on the macro environment that you're dealing with. There are free websites, there are free materials, white papers, published materials, nothing like a good Google search or several Google searches to get free information out there. So you don't have to, go into the macro environment just from nowhere. So let's say, Scarlett, I know that you have a fashion consulting business, right? So if you want to learn more about the environment, maybe you look at what's going on in fashion. What are the new trends? What are people most interested in? And maybe you can say, hey, I have a client base that is, just making this up, I have a client base that's mostly baby boomers. What are baby boomers doing and feeling right now? So more information about the macro environment operating in the industry that you're in. Okay, so those are available to you. And then option number 2, and we're going to spend some more time on this, perform a market research study. So that's quantitative, which is what we know as a market research survey that quantifies the results. And there are also qualitative research studies, time and place for them. There are certain things to watch for and certain things that are really great about qualitative research. Third, you need to analyze the results. And then 4th, and probably most effectively, you actually have to implement the changes and act on the feedback that you got. All right, so how to perform market research. Item number 1, how to get insights on the macro environment. So of course, we know the basics are, do Google searches, see what you come up with Google search. Remember, you could get really specific about what you're looking for and go to the third, the second, third, and fourth pages. Sometimes there's gold in the pages if you don't find it right away. There are also other websites. For instance, I used to use Pew Research, PEW Research for a lot of macro information. So they have, societal information, and it's all survey based. It's actually very well written, and it's information, and you can do searches on Pew. It's totally free. Information about what different people are thinking about, demographics, psychographics. They have the millennial, generational insights, millennials, Gen Zs, and all that. And so that is very helpful for macro research. You may also want to go deeper and learn more about the demographics of a particular geography that you're dealing with. So the US Census is a little cumbersome. It's not always that easy um, to unravel. But if you want to know the income ranges of certain geographies or cities or something like that, or age ranges, US Census is a good tool for that. Also, you may think, hey, don't censuses happen every 10 years? They have forecasting models. So they take mini gauges and then they forecast out what's going to happen societally, or not societally, I'm sorry, demographically over the next several years. All right, so check those out. And like I said, they have different purposes, but they could be really helpful for some macro research. And let's say you've done all that and you still would like to execute a quantitative market research study. So there is, I use SurveyMonkey. I've used SurveyMonkey for clients before. It's very effective, and it's usually free or inexpensive to use. So the things that you have to keep in mind in doing a survey: first, you have to send the survey to a representative sample of people that are either your customers or your potential customers. It doesn't do, so surveys are only as valuable as the targets that answer the surveys. If you're targeting women and a bunch of men answer the survey, not really that helpful, right? If you're targeting women who live in Connecticut who own small businesses and you get a survey response of everybody in the US, not very, more helpful to get the targeted one, right? So the survey, you should spend as much or more time on the targeting for the survey. Who's going to actually get the survey, and how can I get these people to fill out the survey? More time on that than the survey itself. It's crucially important. And I can give you hints on how to do that. But a lot of survey design is focused on that. And then for new products, the SurveyMonkey has a limited, and any survey, any market research survey that's quantitative, there's a limited amount of ability to deep dive into answers. So it's almost, you get what you get. You put out the questions, and that's why it's so important to assess what the survey questions are, because once you get them back, that's it. You've got them back, you can look at them, but there's no ability to really do a deep dive. And as a result, quantitative surveys are great for numerical or objective results. If you're going for funding or VC funding, excellent to do market research studies, because you could present them to your backers saying there's a real interest in this product or service. Right. So survey questions, like I said, the number one is who gets the survey. Number two is how the survey is designed. How many people have gotten surveys? Like almost every single day I get a survey, right? You can't call customer service nowadays without getting a survey asking you to fill out the survey. How many people actually fill it out? Maybe, maybe not, right? That's the problem. You could send out a survey, but how do you get people to actually fill it out? And I'm going to give you some strategies. First strategy, it's got to be a maximum of 5 minutes. If you tell people, I'm going to take a half an hour of your time on this survey, I can tell you not a lot of people are going to be answering your survey. So, what is the maximum of 5 minutes? 10 questions, only one writing question. And that one should be optional. Because if you have a lot of required questions, people get frustrated and they may not fill it out. If you have a write-in question that's required, either you're going to get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or questions that are not really helpful. You may get some helpful things in there too, but be careful with that. So maximum of 5 minutes. And what do you really need to know? So a lot of people, when I do surveys for them, a lot of people go, I really need to ask this and I got to ask that. And, we end up with like 15 questions and, I always make them ratchet it down. What do you really need to know? What are you going to act on? What will help you make a decision? Don't ask questions that you're not going to execute on. Don't ask questions that are nice to know unless you have room in 5 minutes to ask those questions. There's a certain art to having the questions be random and no leading question. And, a lawyer once said, it's almost like asking the questions, when did you stop beating your wife? It's not a valid question, right? So be careful for questions that are not a valid question, that people could not answer it honestly. So for instance, how much would you pay for this added service? Well, it preassumes that they're going to pay for the current service. So how much would you pay for an added service may not be a good way of answering that question. It sounds valid, right? But it may not be a good way of really getting underneath what you want to know. You have to have random survey questions so that you don't get survey bias, because one thing may lead to the other, and you want the answers to be objective of each other and the order that you're asking the questions. Representative sample, I'm going to say it again, I can't say it enough. Send it out to people who you think are really your target audience. Net promoter score is a very popular survey question. If you've been in surveys for a while, you know that what the net promoter score is. It's very simple. And I think a guy named Michael something made a ton of money on it. It's net promoter score. So the simple question is, would you recommend this business to a friend or colleague? And this person who wrote a book about NPS said that question alone is the most important question that you could ask in a survey about customer service. So SurveyMonkey has it, as part of its canned surveys. They have net promoter score surveys. But the important thing is, if you are going to put your reputation on the line and recommend a company to a friend or colleague, that means you must think highly of it. Satisfactory it's a scale from 1 to 10, and satisfactory is only 8, 9, or 10. Anything else is either, they couldn't care less about you, or they actively dislike you. So that's the net promoter score. Qualitative research. Now, this is a deeper dive. This is either a phone survey or a focus group. It's best to get a deeper analysis or a behavioral drivers, reasons for behaviors, right? You can get emotional drivers. You can get gut feelings. You can delve into what drives someone to do one thing versus the other. So more of an emotional basis where you can really ask questions based on what they said before, right? Which you don't have in a quantitative survey. But there's little ability to quantify results. It's very hard to reach people by phone. What do you do when you see a number you don't recognize on your phone? You ignore it. So even if they leave a message, you may not get a response. So it's very hard to actually execute. You probably get about a 10, 20% response to the people that you go out to. And let's say then you say, all right, I'm going to have a facilitated focus group. I'm going to pull some people into HAYVN, have a facilitator, ask questions, get a focus group together. And that you could do that. It gets expensive because you usually have to pay people to participate and take time out of their day. If you don't pay them, they generally don't have time to come in and spend the time with you. So for qualitative research, the key is to get objective feedback. So it has to be conducted by a third party. You can, as a CEO of your own company, say, so what do you think of me? You're not going to get objective feedback. So they can't be connected to the company. A maximum of 10 minutes. You don't want people thinking badly of you for keeping you on the phone for that, keeping them on the phone for that long. And an open-ended the questions lend insight, and it could be harder to summarize though. If you get a bunch of people saying something, okay, but how do you quantify that, right? And then you can ask a lot of why questions. What is something you can change? Why did you leave the company? Where did you go? Things like that. And also you can ask the NPS question, would you recommend, in a phone survey? All right, so analyzing the results. Be open to feedback, because a lot of us may think that we really know our business and the best things and the worst things. But when we get the survey results back, sometimes it's a complete surprise, right? What should you change? Does your target look different than you thought they looked? Are different people attracted to your company than you thought would be attracted? Clarify your value prop, your positioning. Do they resonate? Do they still resonate? If you've been out there for a while, does your positioning statement still resonate with your target? Try other ones. What elements do your customers find most valuable? And what elements do they not find very valuable? And this may change over time. So ensure that those elements are maximized in your marketing. And so what do you need to change about your business as a result of market research? So when I do value proposition with customers, clients, I always try to get them to do market research first. I think it's such an important part of setting up your value proposition. Having said that, it seems like a lot of people, a lot of businesses don't really prioritize it. And if we have time, I'll show you the market research study we did for HAYVN and what we learned from that market research study. So most importantly, to wrap up, act on the survey feedback. After spending all that time, and market research can take a while, it can take hours and hours. And the most important thing is actually to act on the feedback and use it as a constructive learning tool, as opposed to, well, that's interesting. Now that we've done that, that's over. All right, any questions?